I can't believe it. It's here. At least I think it's here because I see a red box, and inside that box is the word live. Of course, I'm still, performing that amateur hour where I have to consult my host manual. And in fact, states that when you see a red box with the word live on it, we are in fact live. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Pretty special evening in my book. And I want to say, if you love what we're doing here, check out talkshop.live to view hundreds albums and books for fans just like you. Tonight, however, is a pretty unique evening, and I'm going to put this gentleman to work right away and ask if he would to kindly introduce himself to the fine folks out there. John?
Sure. Thanks so much. I'm John Jackson. I co-manage the Bon Scott estate, and I've been in the music business for longer than many of you have been alive. And in that time, I've gotten to work at a lot of different classic artist catalogs, including Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson and Elvis Presley and AC/DC. And been working with Bon's family for about 5 years now, since the 75th birthday. And yeah, I've also done lots of record producing and performing and all kinds of other things. So sort of a full service employee.
Absolutely. You know what? I mean, it feels like we need to box out some time to do a show just about your background, John.
You too, Steve. We could just do a whole show of that.
There we go. Well, hopefully I won't blow that opportunity after we get through this first one. So I'm crossing my fingers, and I just want to add some background because it's pretty fascinating. But Ronald Belford Scott, otherwise known as Bon, as we all know him, spent his childhood in Kirriemuir, Scotland. Bon's earliest musical experience, explains a lot, was in the Fremantle Pipe Band, playing the drums, of course. And the first band was the Spectres, later the Valentines. And I've got to ask our wonderful guest this evening a little background on the gentleman he shared co-singing duties with, if he knows anything about him. Just because I'd like to see the birth certificate for Vince Lovegrove. And by the way, I would also pay good money for a Valentine's tour shirt. But they disbanded. Of course, Bon joined Fraternity, progressive rock band. And then after leaving that band, suffering some personal setbacks, history was in the making. He was hired, eventually became front and center of an upcoming Sydney band, of course, AC/DC. And over the course of 6 years and 6 studio albums, it's amazing just to consider that the output and the quality and quantity is just mind-blowing. Sadly, of course, February 19th of 1980, we lost Bon, but thankfully the music and spirit lives on. In 2003, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of AC/DC. And I love this 2004 classic rock magazine, one of my favorites, named Bon the #1 frontman of all time. That's right, beating out such greats as Freddie Mercury, Mick Jagger, and Robert Plant, just to name a few. And several landmarks have also been established in this new century to honor Bon's music, which include statues in Scotland and in Western Australia, where, of course, are natural gathering spots for fans to pay their respects and remember all the great work that he's left behind. Tonight, we're celebrating Bon and the 80th anniversary of his birth. Enough about me. Buckle up. Let's kick the show off, Sam, if you would please roll the video.
Thank you, Steve. You made it very easy for me.
Man, that always gets my adrenaline going. It was already amped up knowing John was coming on for the celebration, but now I'm up to 12. Why? Because it's one more than Nigel's 11. And I'm Steve Harkins, your host for the Rock and Roll Channel Talk Shop Live. Please welcome to the Rock and Roll Channel, John Jackson. As he said, man has just had an incredible resume as a music industry veteran. He's received, as I understand it, the world's first BA in rock and roll history from Indiana University, stone's throw away from where I grew up in Chicago. Got to ask him about that. He's an expert on Elvis Presley, but more importantly, he's the manager of Bon Scott's estate. Once again, please welcome John Jackson. John, thank you so much for being here. Where do we find you this fine evening?
Thanks, Steve. Actually, in the Great Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania.
Outstanding.
Just I live about 5 miles away from your friend Lenny Kay that you had on a couple of weeks ago out here, and he and I do some playing sometimes out here this way, which is nice.
Absolutely, yeah. I was pleasantly surprised to find out we had that instant connection. Great record, and shocking to consider it's the first solo record.
I know, it's great. I got to play on the record. It's a fantastic piece of work. Love it.
It really is, man. It's well worth the wait for sure. And I just want to tell fans, if you'd like to ask John a question or have a comment, but also want to encourage you, it's a celebration. So share your favorite songs that Bon, fronted and in many cases co-wrote, or favorite concert or moment that features the one and only Bon Scott. Just use the chat function. We'll get to as many as possible. Now, you also, I think you said you worked with Ray Davies and the Jayhawks. I saw in your background, and I'm curious, do you still stay in touch with Ray at all, and in what capacity did you work with him?
Yeah, I texted him on his birthday, and I actually texted him when Clive Davis passed away a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
Because he worked with Clive. Clive signed them to Arista, the Kinks.
right.
And so I worked with Ray. I was a producer, and I played on his last 2 albums called Americana and Americana Volume 2.
Great records.
Part 2. Yeah, and we did those over at Conch Studios in London. Jayhawks were the band. And I worked with Guy Massey on producing with Ray. And we did it over the course of about 2.5 years.
Wow.
And it's 2 records, and there's a 3rd record that I certainly hope will one day come out. But I also helped to put together Ray's final concert to date, which was in Hyde Park in September of 2017 as
Wow.
part of the BBC proms. And if you ever want to play a concert, play with Ray Davies in London in Hyde Park for about 80,000 British fans, and you'll see what an audience can do.
I'll bet it's got to be close to, if not equal to, Finding Religion, I suspect. That's pretty amazing. Man, like I say, we'll have to box out a whole show for you, John. It's pretty incredible. As I said, as I understand it, you received the world's first Bachelor of Arts in the rock and roll history from the Indiana University. I need to know more about this, John.
Yeah, so I went to Indiana originally as a performance. I was a violin player growing up,
Yeah.
and they have a great conservatory, best of any sort of public university in the country. And so I wasn't going to go down that path sort of right away, but they did have these amazing courses, these classes in rock and roll history that a couple of guys had started. And because the tuition money was coming in from the football team and other people around, the music school was very excited to have them teach about rock and roll. So I ended up being a TA for those guys, ended up filling in to lecture a couple of times. And then when I figured out the school had a program where you could design your own degree, I go, well, I should make a degree in rock and roll history. And I did that. And so I graduated in 1997. That was the very first one anyone's ever gotten from anywhere. And went to work kind of right away in the catalog division of Sony Music called Legacy, where we were still doing box sets and reissues and, great packages that had to do with sort of summarizing a period or someone's whole career or whatever. And in 2003, Sony was able to get a licensing deal for the AC/DC catalog, which got me involved with those guys. And we immediately did, reissued the whole catalog in cool digipack packages and vinyl and stuff like that.
I remember.
Then after that, we did a whole bunch of standalone packages like the Family Jewels DVD package of their music videos, and then Plug Me In, which was sort of live promo stuff that they did, and some unreleased things. And then with the Iron Man 2 soundtrack, I put
Yeah.
that together with the band. And then the final thing was the Backtracks box set, which was it looks like a guitar amplifier, 12 by 12, and it actually is a guitar amplifier. You can plug
It's
your guitar
amazing.
in and play it. And we had Angus do that once at the United Center in Chicago. You can see that video on YouTube.
That's
But
so cool.
yeah, so worked with those guys for about 15 or so years, and yeah, I've been working with the Scott family since about 2021.
That's quite a story for sure. I mean, as we say in the music industry, after that box set, man, insert mic drop, man. I don't know how you top that, and the bar's pretty high after that. What I'm curious. I don't know if people are aware of this, but there was this legendary place, probably not far from where you are, if I'm not mistaken, of where Sony or CBS or Columbia back in the day, where they used to store all of their masters. And I'm told that one would that be working on cataloging the music would be safer than the U.S. president if we were under attack. That it was not. Now, were you still? Did you have to contend with with any of the recordings or the tapes down to that level when they were stored?
So, so there was a corporate merger. I know this is the least fun thing to talk about, but a corporate
Yeah,
merger in 2004 that brought Sony Music and what was BMG Music, so RCA Records, and all the great catalogs that they have together.
right.
And they ended up consolidating their archive in a place in just outside of Pittsburgh, actually, that is in an old salt mine in a mountain. Um, and it ends up being like basically a city block
Yeah,
of shelving times 5 floors. So it's about 5 city blocks of tapes and video and boxes of things and photographs and documents and all kinds of stuff. And they have amazing people that work there that you can call them up and say, hey, I need the multi tracks for this album, or hey, I need this box of documents from 1978 or whatever.
yeah.
And it's they're able to get them and either scan them or send them or do whatever. So the big shout out to the staff at the Sony archives.
Absolutely. And all the time that you're working there and combing through tracks, including unreleased tracks, to your knowledge, do you think are there any potential chestnuts that maybe are still in the vaults that feature Bond, be it live studio outtakes?
Definitely, as far as I know, no studio outtakes. The
Yeah,
band did a box set with their old label in the late '90s called Bonfire,
right.
that had a CD of sort of early takes, demos, that sort of thing, and that's about it. Those guys did 6 or 7 records in 5 years,
Yeah,
and basically we're on the road the entire time.
yeah,
So they barely had stuff together to come in, make the record. George Young and Harry Vanda were the producers, so they were sort of ready for them at the Albert Studio. They would come in, make a record, leave immediately, go on tour. George and Harry would mix it, they would release it. So back then there wasn't a lot of time for outtakes or diddling around in the studio.
yeah. It's kind of like what you wrote is what was being recorded. There wasn't any waste for the most part.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
know
that's
that the way that they would write, or the way that Bond would write, would be to just sort of write down phrases that he would hear people say, or
yeah.
sometimes he would mishear something and it would be even better as a song title or a lyric, or
Just
he'd have
happy
something like,
accidents. Yeah,
yeah, or he'd have something like "If You Want Blood, You've Got It," which was the name of an album before it was a song.
yeah.
So it's just sort of stream of consciousness, and just working by the seat of your pants.
Pretty amazing to consider,
Yeah.
yeah, the output, yeah, for sure. And, I'm just curious, Sam, if you are ready, we've got these, cool little clips that were provided by John and, the estate. They're short clips, but, thought they were kind of fun to share as we're celebrating. what will be very shortly in a couple of days, the 80th anniversary of the birth of one Bon Scott. And Sam, if you're still with us, please roll the digital. The very first one.
Pretty regular. We've got a really good following in London, you know.
Yeah.
Like even the first gig we ever played at a little pub called the Red Cow. The next night, half that pub was in the Nashville room, another place we played, you know. And they just sort of tell their friends, and they all come along. It's good.
Yeah, that's incredible. Now,
That was very brief. I put Sam to a lot of work, but man, just cool to see him kind of in action. And you know, he always was a fun interview, man. Just super passionate. Seemed like no frills. You know, there was no like rock star air about him. It's like what you saw was what you got.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a clip from the ABC in Australia, who
Yeah.
have been amazing partners to us, and basically have allowed us access to their archive for our YouTube channel
Yeah.
of Bon. And you know, it's not the AC/DC stuff, which they also have tons of, but it's anything of Bon sort of talking, and some of the earlier groups that he was in, like the Valentines and Fraternity and stuff like that. So the ABC has been an amazing partner. You know, and if you go to our YouTube channel, we've been putting up a clip from them sort of once a week on Fridays. So if you want to see some really cool stuff from the vault, you know, go to the Bon Scott official YouTube channel.
Absolutely. Highly recommended. Quality time well worth spent for sure. We're here with John Jackson, manager of Scott's estate, but also illustrious uh, music industry executive, as well as an established musician who has quite a resume in terms of some of the tracks that he's laid down and albums that he's worked on. And as we said, maybe we'll convince him to do a show in his own right. I want to get to the fans because this is also or equally about the fans. And this is from XZITT saying, "Let there be rock." All right, that's all right. The gospel according to Bon and AC/DC. Um, Henry wants to know who designed these shorts. Looks cool. I'm assuming is he referring to Angus? I'm not sure what he's referring to, unless I stood up and I was wearing shorts. I'm not sure, but they're not cool, so I'm going to say it wasn't me. But thanks for being here, Henry. We appreciate it for sure. John wants to know why wasn't this done in Scotland, and that's an easy answer because I'm in Charlotte and John is in New York. So you know we kind of it was a we would have been late for the show. Let's just put it that way. But you're right, man. The budget didn't allow for it. Would have been pretty amazing. But are they doing anything in Scotland, to your knowledge?
Well, I will say that our partners at Bon Fest, which is
Yeah.
a multi-day festival, is now up to 4 days in Carrymere, Scotland, where Bon grew up, just put on their 20th Bon Fest this year for the
Amazing.
80th birthday. That was in May. So their festival is always that first weekend in May. And if anyone wants to travel and see some amazing rock bands and, you know, commingle with your fellow AC/DC fans, that's the place to do it, over in Carrymere, Scotland at Bonfest.
Yeah. Yeah. Henry, this question I think we can handle is the Copa shirt, FIFA or FIFA. If you say FIFA, I say FIFA inspired. And first, I'll just say I'm probably wearing mine. To my knowledge, the only thing closely related to that was that the president didn't phone in and say he'd like the Copa logo a little bit higher. But other than that, I think it was. I don't think it was inspired. But what's the background on the design? It's pretty darn cool.
Well, a couple of things. So
Yeah.
the plaid that you see there is actually a tartan that the family had commissioned from, and it's registered with the National Tartan Registry, which is a real thing over in
That's
the
right.
UK. And there's two of them. That's called the Heritage Tartan, and there's a brown one called the Touring Tartan. And so we've made a ton of products from those. Just using that, you know, it's the base of one of our statues. It's the shirt. We've made scarves and, you know, blankets and stuff like that. But so that's why it's that color, and it's the Scotland colors are those white and blue and with the black in there. But it's really, it's inspired by the time at the Glasgow Apollo, the "If You Want Blood, You've Got It" show, where Angus and Malcolm and Bon all put on Scotland jerseys to play the encore, and kicking soccer balls into the crowd and everything. So we knew we wanted to do something with a football jersey, and the guys at Copa did an amazing job of putting that together. And they do limited edition shirts for, everybody. They do Metallica and, all kinds of other folks. They've done an AC/DC shirt. So they're a great music partner for, to tie sports in. So we knew we had to do one, and we went back and forth on some of the design elements and everything. And on the back it says Scott 80 for the 80th birthday. So it was a real collaboration with the Copa folks and our team at Periscope. Yep, that's what the back.
There is Sam is right on it. Thank you.
And
Sam.
you can buy those in any size you'd like from our great web shop.
Yeah, you can buy it here at Talk Shop Live as well. And let me just say, man, it fits like a glove. It's super comfortable. I will cherish this one. And XZITT again is chiming in saying, Bond, the one and only front man. Yeah, well, he was voted number one, wasn't he, by Classic Rock? I think readers. So that speaks volumes for sure. He was quite the personality, wasn't he, John?
Absolutely. I mean, but we shouldn't gloss over that we also love and cherish our relationship with Brian Johnson, who's carried on the legacy. We don't know if people would remember Bond today if it wasn't for Brian and all the great work that he did with Angus and Malcolm in the 80s and 90s and 2000s and 2010s and all the way up to today. I mean, he's been in the band for 46 years and Bond was in for 5, so it's a giant torch that he was given. So we love Brian and can't thank him enough.
Boy, you got that right. And again, I mean, he embraces the Bond material in concert. He puts his stamp on it for sure, but he still I think he still honors Bond's work, which is great. And some singers would like to pivot and focus mostly on their legacy, and that's a mark of the man for sure, and the band.
Yeah, and their set list, which they're starting their North American tour back up again just 2 days after Bond's birthday in Charlotte, North Carolina, where you are.
And I will be there.
That's amazing. And yeah, half the set is songs that Bond wrote the words to, and
Awesome.
from those great 70s albums. So they're doing their part to keep Bond alive for sure.
Thanks for letting me know. I will pace my beer runs because I want to make sure I can take in every song, and especially the ones that Bond was involved with. Jason wants to know what we think Bon Scott would think of us still talking about him today, and also tack on, and also what should we consider his legacy to be?
I mean, I think if he were alive today, he'd be doing the show instead of me and having a great time talking to you. So I think that he would be getting a huge kick out of the fact that people still remember him, still want to have anything to do with the songs he wrote. Because, we were talking to his brother Derek the other day, and he said the same thing. He was just the most regular, cool guy you could imagine. And, all he ever wanted to do was stand in front of people and sing and, get applause. So the fact that the band's still out there doing it, and the fact that people still, stream his songs, and Highway to Hell is AC/DC's #1 song on Spotify, and it's got a billion streams and everything, he would be tickled and, sort of laughing to himself about all of this. But I think he would be here instead of me for sure.
Yeah, I kind of sense that too. We're thankful to have you here. Maybe we would have had both of you on, but I'll say too, I mean, when you consider that there's no way he would have thought, or anyone in the band would have thought, that this was going to still, to still be prevalent in people's lives, 52 years after the first album. It's just mind blowing, I mean, to consider it. And again, it's just a testament to the band and the material. And also, there is somewhat of a sense of mystery that, the fact that we lost Bond so young or whatever, there's been a little bit of mythology, I think, that kind of takes place, just like with Jim Morrison, though his, story is a little more extreme as far as his lifestyle, but still, and there's new generations of fans that never had the chance to see the guy, yet the music still talks to them.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really what we're trying to do. What the Jim Morrison estate or the Jimi Hendrix estate,
Yeah.
a lot of these families have done to advance and make people remember who these guys were and women were, and constantly introducing them to new people, constantly reminding people, whether it's with a T-shirt or a sync ad placement or a whatever it ends up being that gets the song into people's heads. That's what we're trying to do, is sort of elevate him to that kind of status and remind people that yes, he was in AC/DC for 5 years, but he was in these other bands. He did have a life outside of music. He had a life,
Right.
And really get to know who he was and why he did the things that he did, and not just, oh yeah, he was one of the singers of AC/DC once. But
Absolutely.
I think to your other point, in the 70s, none of these people thought that this would still be happening today. I mean, a lot of them were thinking, oh, maybe I'll quit when I'm 30, or I can
Yeah.
maybe retire later on, or something like that. So, I distinctly remember working in a record store in 1989 when the Stones were celebrating their 25th anniversary,
Yeah.
and it was like there was a magazine on the counter with a sort of a cartoon of Mick Jagger, like super old, and going like, is anyone going to want to see the Stones when they are 60? And it's like they're on their 62nd year now and are putting out a new record, and it's like,
I know.
no one would have thought this back then, but it's amazing that it's all still happening.
Yeah, and it still captures imagination, the energy, like we said, of multiple generations, not just those of us that grew up with them, right? I mean, when they were still active. And I just want to let everybody know tonight we're celebrating the 80th birthday of one Ronald Belford Scott, known to us all as Bond. To commemorate the special occasion, Talk Shop Live is offering unique items. Bon Scott, AC/DC, and rock fans everywhere can show their true appreciation of Bon. These are all authorized by Bon's estate. They were, part of the development. There's the Bon Scott Reg Mombasa T-shirt. I'm going to ask John to speak about Reg in a minute. New limited edition art celebrating Bond's 80th birthday, mind-blowing artwork featuring original art from the legendary Australian artist Mombasa, created in his unmistakable hand-drawn style. And the pieces honor Bond's legacy, AC/DC's roots, and the wild spirit that made him one of rock's most unforgettable frontmen. We have Bon Scott's tattoo T-shirt, a tribute to his legendary style. Features an image of his actual tattoo, an iconic piece of rock history, celebrates the enduring legacy of one of the greatest frontmen in music of all time. And then, as we just talked about, the Bon Scott Copa football shirt, right in the heart of the incredible World Cup. How about that American team? Sorry, I won't talk about that. I'm still licking my wounds. A clean crossover, but the games have been amazing, we have to say, whether you're a fan or not. Clean crossover, football heritage and rock history. As you can see, I'm a proud owner of this amazing shirt. And then the Bon Scott rock and roll T-shirt, celebrating the spirit of rock and roll with classic Bon Scott tee. Man, I love this one. Great shirt. And then also we're offering this really cool shaker pint glass, holds up to 16 ounces, that will have multiple symbols and images associated with Bon. Just awesome. And for a limited time, an exclusive Bon Scott patch set, exclusive here, set of 7, so that you can customize and create one-of-a-kind tributes. They're as bold as Bon himself. You want to cut off that jean jacket and emulate the man himself. Man, now you got exactly what you need to decorate it. To order, hit the shop button and Talk Shop Live on socials, Facebook and Instagram. Comment shop. We'll DM you a link. And YouTube, click the link inside the description. There's no greater way to show how much you appreciate the great Bon Scott's artistry than by owning this amazing merch celebrating Bon and his 80th birthday. So let me ask you this, John. What specifically are the responsibilities of one that manages an estate like Bon Scott's?
Well, Bon's the situation is a little bit different than some people. You know, you have your Jimi Hendrix or your Janis Joplins and people like that who have a music catalog
Yeah.
where the marketing of them is generally the marketing of the music that made them famous in the first place. And Bon, you know, because he was a member of these other bands, he doesn't really have his own music. So we're
Right.
not making box sets and reissues and stuff like that. So it really comes down to you know, doing things like merchandise, doing things like you know, statues and figures and tributes like the mural that you guys are showing of the Reg Bombassa artwork.
Yeah.
But just it's a lot of getting other people on board
Right.
to help us spread the word. Like we've gotten a ton of really great birthday shout out videos that we'll be posting on Bond's Instagram and Facebook, you know, from people like Rob Halford and Joe Elliott
That's
and
awesome.
Justin Hawkins from The Darkness. And we just got one from Paige Hamilton, the lead singer of Helmet, who, you know, who knew he was a fan, but he is.
That's great.
And yeah, all kinds of other. Mike McCready from Pearl Jam sent us one. So it's really like, how do we take this story that is so precious to, you know, the people that really know and start to, you know, get it out further and further into the world so that, you know, I always say, you know, 20 years from now, is this person going to be more famous or less famous than they are now? And the goal is more famous, obviously. So what can we do to continue the conversation of people talking about them?
Absolutely. Luther Kindlovich, thank you so much for being here. Hello to you. Larry wants to know if, in fact, John, you had any insights to this, what Bond's favorite song might have been to perform if there was one. Most artists will, you know, rarely answer that question saying, oh, they're like my children. Actually, one got pissed and said, they're not my children, they're my songs. But that was just one out of several hundred. But do you have any insight? And if there was, there were any specific songs that, you know, were special to him?
Oh, I mean, the most special song I think to him, and then, you know, to the fans since his passing, is "It's a Long Way to the Top." If you want to
Yeah.
rock and roll,
Yeah.
you know, the fact that he had that big bagpipe solo,
Yeah.
the fact that it was sort of like his ethos in a nice little package to give to people. You know, I think it's so identified with him that, you know, Brian has never performed that song. That's one that he has said, I leave that to Bon and I will not ever do that one. So
It's a good call out.
yeah, I would say that that's probably his most identified with song. And then, you know, the fact that it was in School of Rock and has been done, you know, for TV and films and stuff like that. I think that's sort of, you know, Highway to Hell is a high watermark as well, but that song sort of belongs to everyone at this point. And but It's a Long Way to the Top, I think, is probably his most identifiable to him song.
That makes sense. Yeah, and you know, just from my perspective, Highway to Hell is very special meaning because my wife and I had this pact every time we would move into a new home or townhouse. Man, the first thing we'd set up would be, you know, the stereo system with the, you know, magnificent JBL speakers and crank Highway to Hell, which is a heck of a way to meet neighbors because every single time they came knocking on the door to say hello.
Yeah,
And
you
that's a
have
true
to.
story.
You gotta. The first thing you set up in any home is a good stereo.
That's
And then,
right.
yeah, and then get it as loud as you can get it. But
Pick
that's,
your
I mean,
poison.
Highway to Hell. It's such a great record. I mean, it's one of these things. We're also doing these sit down interviews with people, and I was
Yeah.
able to sit down with Scott Ian from Anthrax once and talk to him about Bon because he never saw Bon play. He was a little too young, but he was, you know, right in that sweet spot of being in middle school when Back in Black came out. And, you know, he sort of had heard of Bon. And then this, like, you know, that period of 1980, 81, 82, at least in the US, where Back in Black is huge. Then the label decides to put out the Dirty Deeds album that was shelved, you know, in the States in 1976.
Right.
And then the Let There Be Rock, the movie, comes out. So you're going, wait a sec, I thought this band was these guys, and now you're telling me it was these
Very
guys.
confusing.
And
Yeah.
who is this dude that you know seems to be allergic to wearing shirts and whoa, what are these crazy lyrics and interviews and all this stuff? And in the States, we didn't have Countdown, we didn't have the Australian television stuff. So he was like this
Right.
brand new presence that just was taken away from us, so quickly. And I think it caused people to get more interested than they might have been otherwise.
Yeah, really good point. And I often wondered too. I'm thankful that we got Back in Black, and of course, the man who stepped in. I mean, you talk about having a massive weight on his shoulders and delivered magnificently. But if AC/DC just said, you know what, we just can't continue on, I always wondered, how would Highway to Hell kind of reside as a standalone rock album? And I can't help but think probably even greater stature because it's such an amazing album. But you had Back in Black, which was historic, the background behind it, and it's just an absolutely amazing album. And so I think to some extent, it almost hurt kind of the legacy of Highway to Hell as an album to some extent, just because of, just how it took the band to a whole nother level.
Yeah, I mean, they had been building,
Yeah.
starting, and came to the US for the first time in 77. So,
Right.
they had been building since then, and, they didn't really have much success. They were the big gigs that they were playing, and, you see some footage of them, were like multi-bill festivals where they were sort of, middle to lower, but they were still opening for, Journey and Leonard Skinner and all these, much bigger bands than them at the
Yeah.
time. So they were able to play to big crowds, but it wasn't their crowds. And so, when he died, it really was like a make or break. Like, do we still do this? I think they were in a ton of debt. They were like,
Right.
totally demoralized. And then to come back with the greatest selling rock record of all time is
Yeah.
like the most impressive magic trick you've ever seen.
You're right. And the only synergy probably with them opening up for Leonard Skinner, where fans were going, "Hey, their flag kind of looks like my flag," you know. But enough about Leonard Skinner. Henry wants to know, how does the estate work alongside AC/DC today to ensure his contributions to the band are celebrated? It's a good question. Do you have
Well,
interaction with the band?
I don't. The family does.
Yeah.
Bond's family has a very good relationship with Angus and Brian and the management and the lawyers and we actually share an attorney. My co-manager of the estate is a guy named Damian Rinaldi, who is the one of the attorneys for Albert Music, which was the band's original publishing company and still owns all the master recordings and all that stuff. So it's a very, very tight family. Like I said, the band has done an amazing job of keeping Bond's memory alive. All we're doing is sort of sidecarring with them and making sure that we do everything we can do while they're out playing football stadiums all over the world. But yeah, no, the Angus just gave us a nice quote, again, that we'll post on the birthday on Thursday, just sort of tipping his hat to Bon. Everything we do, we run by them, and it couldn't be a better relationship at this point.
Yeah, well, it makes sense for all involved, for sure, and but nonetheless, not always the case. So it's so great to hear that. George L is asking, and this is something I'm interested in too. Any plans to release any unreleased Bond era, I guess pre AC/DC demos, live recordings, early works, like his time in fraternity, or to the public? I mean, there's some great footage I think that's featured on the site. That stuff I hadn't seen before, and it's kind of interesting to hear his vocal approach, to doing cover songs. I mean, he's a great vocalist doing covers, and he still sounds like Bond, but not the same attitude. He's still great. But any insights on that? Is there any material that possibly could see the light of day? Any recordings?
And as far as AC/DC, I don't think so, although
Right.
I can't say. But Fraternity and Valentine's have sort of been done. If you go to Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, you can find sort of the complete Fraternity. That's a couple of hundred tracks, and the Valentine's, everything's been out there. So there's not any more of that stuff left. The guys at the Grape organization who helped to manage what's the left of the members of fraternity, have done a great job of like putting together box sets and, digging through the vaults and coming up with unreleased stuff. So that's all been done. So as far as I know, there is no more Bond music that can come out. But the good news is there's a ton of it that people can go listen to. And honestly, if you're tuning into this and you're an AC/DC fan and you've never heard of Fraternity, or if you've never heard of the Valentines, it's a really fun, backtracking to go and see what he was up to before Angus and Malcolm found him.
Absolutely. You all have your homework assignment after you hit that buy button and after the show is done. Let the show finish out first. And Sam, I'm going to ask you again to, if you would, to queue up the next video. And if you're not sure which one, whatever floats your boat, because we only have 3. And it just shows how organized I am as a host. So you're welcome. But if you would, please roll the video.
From AC/DC, telling you to stick around because really soon we got our brand new single Jailbreak coming up, and don't forget you see it first on Countdown.
Roll.
Hello, this is Bond from AC/DC, and although we're overseas at the moment, dining with the Queen, of course, we haven't forgotten about you, our Countdown fans. And here to prove it's our brand new single Jailbreak, and don't forget you see it first on Countdown.
Filled with so much life, man, and just, the guy just enjoying life. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Even when he's got to hawk their appearance,
And
he
that's
makes it a good experience.
by all accounts, that is what he did, 24/7. There was no difference between who he was on stage and who he was off stage. And, he was the kindest person, the most full of life person, the, most friendly person from everyone that knew him. So you won't find anyone saying a bad thing about the guy. And that actually was filmed at the airport in Sydney on their way to London for the first time. So they were sort of leaving the country on their debut out of the country to go and bring their music to the world, having been a year and a half or so as Australia only export.
Incredible. And also it kind of speaks to your point about how much free time they had. The only time he had to do a promo was waiting for his plane to London.
That's right. It's very
Right.
rock star. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I did just again want to touch on, we did a little bit, but AC/DC's on tour. I mean, you have to think, they're not billing it as the farewell, but I mean, most of us didn't even think that we would be talking about another AC/DC tour, and here we are. And they're playing these great stadiums. It kind of has that feeling of finality, although they haven't said that. And I guess you never say never. I mean, I'll keep going until they decide they don't want to. But, just amazing that Brian is behind the mic when, all reports were that he probably wasn't going to sing with the band ever again. And here we are.
I think he's done incredible work on his own, when Axl was fronting the band and sort of coming back through the Coachella thing and now the tour. He's done a phenomenal job of, making sure that he can hear with his special in-ears and keeping his voice together and everything. And, he's 79 years old. So it's like, I mean, there's guys that I don't think, like Bob Dylan is out there still touring. Of course, Willie Nelson, people like this that they don't know. I don't think they know what else to do. I don't think Angus knows what else to do besides play guitar. And that's why he's so good at it.
That's exactly right. Makes sense. And, I think they always say, as long as they'll show up, we're happy to oblige them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So just a little background. I mean, it's pretty fascinating, but I didn't know when he was growing up that in Scotland, his family had a bakery.
Yeah, so that was their family business in Carriemuir was a bakery, and everyone, the aunts and uncles and kids and parents and everybody would work there, and we were actually able to this year at Bondfest in May turn that exact location into a pop-up merchandise store, and we had stuff
great.
Exactly like this evening for sale, and that was a really fun thing to actually not only to be in the town and celebrate, but actually be in the 4 walls that the family would have worked in, and little Bond would have been running around and throwing flour at people and everything. It was
Stealing a cupcake when the family wasn't watching.
yeah, it was a great, sort of moment to be able to experience that.
Yeah, yeah, love that. Love that for sure. Again, I want to remind everybody we're celebrating the 80th anniversary of the birth of one Ronald Belford Scott, all known to us as Bon. And to commemorate the special occasion, we're offering these unique items that any and all rock fans, Bon Scott, AC/DC, and just across the board rock fans would appreciate. And these are all sanctioned, with involvement from his estate. There's the Reg Mombassa T-shirt, limited edition art release celebrating his 80th birthday, with really cool original artwork by the legendary Australian artist. Then there's the Bon Scott tattoo T-shirt, a tribute to his legendary style, and an image of his actual tattoo. Really iconic piece of rock history. We have, I think, my favorite piece, the Bon Scott Copa football shirt. That is a clean crossover from football heritage and rock history, pairs a classic silhouette with a bold tartan-inspired design. You heard the story behind it, which appreciated from John. And I, too, am a proud owner of this amazing football shirt. We got the rock and roll shirt, Bon Scott rock and roll shirt, celebrating the spirit, which is another one that I love that just has great imagery of Bon. And you'll love that. And we also have a cool new shaker pint glass, holds up to 16 ounces. It's absolutely a great addition to your glassware collection, featuring multiple symbols and images associated with Bon. Really cool glass. And lastly, the Bon Scott patch set of 7 Talk Shop Live exclusive patches, so you can customize and create one-of-a-kind tribute that's as bold as Bon himself. And to order, hit the shop button on Talk Shop Live on social, Facebook, Instagram, comment the word shop. We'll DM you a link. And YouTube, click the link in the description. The rest is quick, easy, and pain-free. And there's no greater way to show how much you appreciate the great Bon Scott's artistry than by owning and wearing, displaying your approval, or hoisting a pint in honor of the great Bon. Either way. Now, in primary school, I love this story. I didn't want to give it away. He adopted the nickname Bon, and there was a reference to it. So, John, for those of us not in the know, can you share with us where it came from?
Well, apparently the class he was put into when he first showed up in Fremantle was there was already a kid named Ron or Ronnie, so there couldn't be 2 Ronnies. And because he was from Scotland, and Scotland is known as Bonnie Scotland, and there's the great song called Bonnie, they started calling him Bon because he was this guy from Scotland. So that's where that came from, was little kids nicknaming each other.
Love that for sure. Greg Kilman saying, "Rest in peace, Bon. Thanks to you, there will always be rock." Great tribute, and appreciate it. And again, Exits contributing a lot of great quotes, lots of great kick-ass rock and roll music, top to bottom, over that short window of Bon and AC/DC for sure. The first band, the Spectres, what can you tell us a little bit about that? What type of a band was it? I'm assuming it was mostly covers.
Oh,
All
yeah.
covers.
Yeah, there was a band called the Spectres and a band called the Winstons that were both in Fremantle. It was high school bands, garage bands, doing covers and stuff like that. Bon played drums in the Spectres and sang a little bit. And then the Winstons were sort of a, friendly, other band in town. And when those started to, figure out who was going to be professional and who wasn't, they joined forces and created the Valentines.
Yeah.
So Vince Lovegrove and Bon were the 2 singers of the Valentines. And
was that, not to interrupt you, but was that really his last name, Lovegrove?
as far as I know,
Yeah.
I know, right?
Pretty impressive.
I know. And and they were mostly covers, almost all covers, actually. And but that was back when in Australia the real band, the band who cut famous songs, probably would never go and tour Australia, would never be on the radio in Australia. So there were people who would find tracks, like there's a great clip of the Valentines doing the song "Build Me Up, Buttercup."
Yeah.
People in Australia wouldn't know who wrote that song, who was the hit, who had the hit with it in America, whatever. So they would grab songs like that and go on TV and cover them and perform them and have hits, and people thought that that was a Valentine's song.
Yeah.
And there was a great scene of um, pop bands like that in the late 60s in Australia. Remember the Bee Gees are from Australia.
Yeah.
There was a band called Zoot that was also sort of a competitor to the Valentines, where we get our friend Rick Springfield from, who a lot of people don't know is Australian, but
Right.
he was in the Zoot, and them and the Valentines would sort of have a mock feud in the music press there.
Love that.
But in reality, they were all just great mates and
Yeah.
would hang out and party and everything. And when the 70s rolled around, that sort of music was left behind, and Bon left the Valentines and ended up doing a much more of like a progressive rock thing in Fraternity. And you can hear all that stuff on Spotify, and we've got some great clips coming on YouTube. But their cover of the band's "The Shape I'm In" is one of my favorite things ever. Bon Scott singing the band is just amazing.
Another homework assignment for yours truly. Thank you for that. I'm going to be busy this weekend for sure. Here's a question for John. Who is the most handsome in the Bond band playing on Thursday? It's from Paul McGilloway. I'm going to go on a limb and say he's probably in the band, so he's looking for the answer to be Paul McGilloway.
It's definitely Kenny Soul.
There we go.
Who is our drummer and was in a band, believe it or not, called Nantucket, that opened for AC/DC on the Highway to Hell tour and the Back in Black tour. Wow. They were from North Carolina. And fun fact, they also did the first, as far as I know, the first known cover of "It's a Long Way to the Top If You Want to Rock and Roll" in 1980, after Bon passed, as a tribute to him. So he'll be on drums. Paul is our Angus. Our friend Ivan Bodley is on bass. I play Malcolm in the band, and we've got 15 of the greatest singers that money can buy coming out to pay tribute on Thursday night in New York City at the Cutting Room.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wanted you to mention that, since we didn't have a chance to mention it before. And here's hoping Paul will be fully clothed and not wearing shorts. And I don't know Paul, but I'm just going out on a limb. But
I don't know. He's got pretty nice legs.
Okay, go for the shorts, Paul. It's
a one night
only thing.
We sort of pride ourselves on getting the sound right, but we're not like a tribute band where people wear the outfits, and we don't want one person that's sort of pretending to be Bon fronting the band. So we literally have 15 different singers. We'll be doing about 20 different songs, and we've got Corey Glover from Living Color, and Steve Brown from Trickster, and Jimmy Coons from Cactus, and a whole bunch more. Peter Shaw from Trans-Siberian Orchestra. It's a really fun and loud and a great night of music.
We had Jimmy Coons on listen a year ago. Love him. Great singer.
The best.
Yeah, absolutely. Great guy too. Robe Life Network said my dad saw AC/DC with Bon in the 70s. And here you go again, man. We're talking about multi-generational. Here's a son who never got to see Bon and AC/DC watching us tonight, celebrating Bon's 80th birthday. Didn't see him, but Dad did. And it just, he's carrying the torch.
If there's ever been a band that was, multi-generational, it's AC/DC. I mean, every year there's new, sixth graders who sit in the back of the bus going to school and drawing the logo on their, book or, notebook or whatever. So it doesn't surprise me at all that people are passing this music down to new children everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And Diesel 65 saying, my mother's birthday is on the 8th. Rest in peace. So yeah, we'll be thinking of your mother as well as Bon. And thanks for being here. And again, I just want to remind everybody that we're celebrating the 80th anniversary of the birth of one Ronald Belford Scott, also known, of course, as Bon. And to commemorate the special occasion, we are offering some really cool merch, a limited edition art release celebrating his 80th birthday, featuring original artwork by the legendary Australian artist Reg Mombassa. We have the Bon Scott tattoo t-shirt, that features an image of his actual tattoo, iconic image, an iconic piece of rock history. We have one of my favorites, the favorite in my book, the Bon Scott Copa football shirt, right in the heart of the incredible World Cup that we're seeing, and has all kinds of elements of Bon in it, and really super comfortable, just good looking shirt, clean crossover football heritage and rock history. The Bon Scott rock and roll shirt that is inspired by the energy, attitude, and unforgettable legacy of one of music's most iconic frontmen. Love this one as well. And then we also have a 16-ounce pint glass with various symbols and images that are all associated with Bon, but really cool beer glass. And then we have an exclusive Bon Scott patch set, which is a set of 7 patches you can customize and create a one-of-a-kind tribute that's as bold as Bon himself. To order, hit the shop button on Talk Shop Live on socials, Facebook and Instagram. Comment shop. We'll DM you a link. And on YouTube, just click the link in the description. No greater way to show how much you appreciate and celebrate in public the great Bon Scott and his artistry. Keep it going. Spread the gospel of one Bon Scott. Can't think of a better way to do it. I've got to ask.
No, I'll tell you, Steve, about the Reg Mombasa piece.
Yes,
so
please.
Reg is, in his own right, a music legend and icon in Australia.
Yes.
He's in a band called Mental As Anything, and if you don't know them, you should look them up. But he's also a great graphic artist, and he has a very particular style that's known as Mambo art in Australia, and they're T-shirts and posters and all kinds of stuff of these wild creatures and the thing with one eye, and it's very cartoony. It's very 2D, and of course he loves Bon. And when the family asked him if he would do something to commemorate, he said, "Of course, I'm too busy for everybody else, but let me do this for you." So he came up with this, which is a tribute to the Long Way to the Top clip that they filmed in Melbourne. Where the band's on the back of a flatbed truck and Bond singing, and so it's the lion head that the thing has, and it's he's a guitar, and so it's sort of surrealist, but the lion head has to do with Scotland and a lion tattoo that Bond had on his forearm. And we just had this turned into actually a mural at the beginning of AC/DC Lane, which is in Melbourne. You've shown some clips of it, and just last week they put that up, and Reg was able to go because Mental As Anything was playing in the city, and the Lord Mayor of Melbourne showed up as well, who's a massive AC/DC fan and helped AC/DC Lane get off the ground. So if you're ever in Melbourne, go see AC/DC Lane and go see the Reg mural, and wear your T-shirt that you're buying tonight on Talk Shop Live.
Nicely done,
How do you like
John.
that?
There'll be something extra in your Christmas stocking this year on all fronts. You did a great job for sure. And let's see here. Jackson Osborne is saying, Bon Scott, I'm your biggest fan. Thanks for being here. And Sam, are we done with the clips, or do we have one more? I apologize. I lost count. I think we're done. Okay. Thank you. So this will be easy because we only have one left. If you would, let's roll the digital.
Was it to put the bagpipes into A Long Way to the Top?
George.
Sorry?
George Young.
Yeah.
He just said, there's a big break in there. Can you play bagpipes? Why he thought of bagpipes, I'll never know. And I sort of played a bit of recorder before in Fraternity and other bands, and I sort of knew how to blow and finger, so I just... What else can you say? So I played them.
I mean, looking at Angus, he's almost unrecognizable. He looks like a child.
Well, he was. I mean, he was still a teenager in that clip. That's 76, so it's he was still incredibly young. But he was talking, Bon was talking about his brother George, who was in the Easy Beats in Australia, and then a legendary producer and songwriter, and himself along with Harry Vanda, and they produced all of those great AC/DC records up until Highway to Hell, but they did everything else, and it was his idea to put the bagpipes on there. So hats off to George Young. Yeah,
you're exactly right. And let's see here. Robe Life Network is saying, I think AC/DC played CBGBs with the Dictators.
They did play CBGB. Their first when they first came to America in 1977, they did two kind of promo shows in the same day. One was released on an album called Live from Atlantic Studios, and then they went over and played CBGB. And there's a couple of pictures from it, but CBGB, if for those who hadn't been there, was a tiny club and one of the loudest places you'll ever go. And there's a great picture of Bon carrying Angus around on his shoulders, and there's a guy with the the cord, making sure they don't hit anybody. And there's like some jaded New Yorker who's kind of just sitting at his table like this. And it's such an amazing photo.
That's
but
awesome.
yes, that did happen. That did happen.
I love that. Yeah, that's so great. And we love the Dictator's latest incarnation was on Keith Roth, who's just a sweetheart of a guy, great singer, and also has a couple of great shows on Sirius XM. And John, man, just can't thank you enough for doing this, man. I feel like we could have gone on all night, although you're probably looking at your watch going, when is this guy going to say goodnight? But thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Of course, thank you for having me. I mean, everything like this is important for keeping everybody's music and images and everything out there. So thank you for everything you're doing, Steve, in a place that, time where selling music to people is incredibly difficult. Talk Shop Live is a great resource for people.
Thank you so much, man. I'd love to have you back. And before we let you go, I'd like to thank all the fans for your passion, keeping the spirit of Bon alive, and AC/DC and the Bon era alive as well. And of course, celebrate and support the latest incarnation who has been around a heck of a lot longer with Brian than Bon. And it's pretty amazing to think about that. And special thanks to both John and everyone from Bon's estate for helping out, and also our product fulfillment partner, Ellen from Periscope, and everyone affiliated with Periscope, who bring us the merch, the production of it, and also helping on the fulfillment side. Thanks so much, Ellen. And I'd be remiss if I didn't call out Chip Ruggieri from Chipster PR for lighting the fire that led to this event, and to Brian, Sandy, Tina, Brad, Joe, Jenny, Lavani, Marty, Kate, Brendan behind the scenes, doing an incredible job, really beyond the call of duty tonight. Sam, all from Talk Shop Live. But most importantly, to Bon Scott for his musical gifts he left for all of us to enjoy. And John, before we part company, last words you'd like to share with the fans on behalf of Bon's estate?
No, I would just echo what you said about thanking everybody, especially our partners at Periscope, who also do AC/DC's merch, and will have amazing pop-up shops all over the country and in Canada following the tour. You might find a Bon Scott item in there. But yeah, thanks to Ailey and Norman, of course, and David and Ellen and Renee and everybody at Periscope.
And anybody who is at the first pop-up shop, which will be in Charlotte, I might be hanging out there for a little bit. I'll certainly be at the venue. If you see me, give me a high five and let's share a pint. It'll be in a plastic cup, but hopefully be pint size. And it's the thought that counts. And pick up incredible items celebrating Bon's 80th birthday, including the exclusive items only here on Talk Shop Live. While you're at it, pick up copies for friends and family. Celebrating music and art is a gift that keeps on giving, and one that will last a lifetime. Your friends and family will thank you for it. You've worked hard this year. Hit that shop button on Talk Shop Live. Comment the word shop on Facebook, Instagram. We'll send you a DM. Click that link. Or if you're watching on YouTube, click the link inside the description. I have it on good authority. It will enhance everyone's quality of life. It certainly has mine. And again, if you love what we're doing here, check out talkshop.live to view all kinds of amazing shows from some of the greatest artists of all time. And John, again, thanks so much for being here. Really enjoyed it. It's a pleasure to meet you.
You as well, Steve. Thank you very much. I also see in the chat our friend Darcy from Fremantle's down there, who was a great friend of Bon and the roadie of the Valentines and Fraternity coming up. So hello, Darcy and Gabby.
Darcy and Gabby, thank you so much for being here. We're honored and privileged. Darcy down under, and keep the legend alive. You just helped take it to another level. Thank you for being here. And with that, everyone, stay safe, enjoy life, and rock on. So long, everybody. Thanks again, John.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everybody.